Hello!
Welcome to part 2 of painting Offcolor. Today I'm challenging myself with a landscape forest. Depth is challenging for everyone, and I'm no exception. I hope this helps you as it helps me.
Thank you!
Today will be a mossy forest, heavy in greens and browns. I have drawing. The details aren't so fleshed out as what is important for the sketch is placement and shape. Details will not be visible until you add paint, so don't even worry about it. The interesting part about painting a forest is you draw front to back, you paint back to front. That goes for all landscapes, but it is most pronounced with trees, so it's more important in forests, at least the way I see it. The canvas size is actually different than the paper, so all this stuff's getting ignored, just the stuff over here. I start by laying out where the lines from the trees and the bumps hit the border of the canvas to set a basic outline, and as I move on, I connect them. There's a bend in the tree around here, this is the part I'm going at right now. Yeah, actually that does match up almost perfect, because I got this point. See, this is an interesting thing. When you're doing a drawing, you want to figure out what matches parallel and what matches horizontal. See, at this point, the base of this tree will be at the same point as that bend there, almost directly at the midpoint. So in fact, we're going to draw a little median, and that's where the base of that tree is. Goes down about here, and it meets up with this bend right about here. Right about the midpoint there. This is why you want to do more faint lines, because I had to go back and erase, and it took a while to dig it out. As I got finished up with the bulk of the trees, I was ready to put in the horizon of where the water meets the land, and where that mossy bit hits the rest of the land down below. Bit of a pond. As I finished up the bulk of the shapes, I noticed there was an empty space at the bottom. All art is open to change, so I decided to put a log down there to fill it up. Over here, there's some bushes with probably some clovers. Around this point, we're actually going to drop this down, because I don't think it's quite that much of a shore. Not quite so assured. When doing trees or columns, it's hard to tell which part is the empty space and which part's the actual subject. So at this point, I decided I'd start adding hashes to show whatever the left side of the log was, and the left side of the trees, so that I wouldn't mix it up with the background. When it's not looking as you think it should, don't give up, it'll get there. The beauty of drawing is you can constantly change the shape, so long as you can keep erasing. It's at this point I start adding the finishing details before I can start adding paint. I just noticed a massive empty spot at the bottom, so I decided it'd be best to just add a log, and that should fill that empty space. I'll add a log, how about that? That'll keep it. Yeah. Because I didn't quite add a border to it, so we'll make a border. This will be a log. Stump that shoots out up here. Unsure of what to do with the massive hill there. Added some brush as a placeholder until I decide what I wanted to do. The branch stops about here. This is where the branch is. It stops there. And now to finally finish up the details so that I can get ready to add paint. And this is going to finish it up. This is basics of it. Don't know how clear it is, but there we go. Now let's get ready to start laying some paint on. What I want it to do is I want it to be kind of like a for lack of a better term, a lame green, where there's deeper greens through here, but as it goes out, it becomes more like greenish. We're gonna use a lot of blue, so I'm gonna pull some blue, pull some green, and I'm gonna use this to try to make the watercolor. One thing you'll notice in a lot of water based on the environment, like oceans and lakes seem to have this effect pretty big, is it's not just the color of the water, but the color of its surroundings. Like a bog will have more of a greenish tint to the water, and an ocean will have more of a bluish tint to the water. And it's purely based off of what the surrounding area is, what the color of the environment is. See the difference between the two? I added just a little bit more blue to this. Let's test to see how close this is to what I want. On the side. No, not quite blue enough. This point is just trial and error of trying what colors, seeing what sticks, and just try and try again. You'll get the color eventually. So when I mix using the brush, it's slightly different, where instead of moving around like the paint knife, you grab little bits of white, you just make it a little streak, you move to the other side. If you want a different color, you just pull some off. See, that's already getting to the color I want. Water is unstable, and it's never going to be a flat line, so I kind of just went crazy with the brush, putting it where it felt right, and just wiggling the brush around. And then make a little bit of a contrast over here. Since I wasn't quite moving onto the land, it was that kind of mossy edge part of the pond, I just used the same watercolor in the trees and mixed in some of that green I prepped earlier. The trees were really interesting because I was able to just use the same green I was going to use for the ground, just with a little bit more red, because green and red makes brown, just muting whatever red is. Then as I pull over to the highlight of it, you add more green to the brownish color. Here, this part bends over here. It's kind of like iffy color. Let's get not quite ready to move on from the colors I was currently using. I decided to add some spots that I saw on that shore near the pond. From there, I got most of the trees finished up, at least the base colors. At this point, just to make sure I didn't mistake any of the white space for more trees, I decided to include a little bit of a foggy, misty sky. What you want is plenty of room for your canvas. Right now my brush is actually banging against my desk. Now I get to finish up the empty space, and at this point there will be no unmarked part of the canvas. Now to add the part that adds some coherence, and you can start understanding the details a bit better when you start adding highlights. I usually just mix a little bit of white in with whatever color I'm using. It's kind of a cheat. What you really should be doing is you should be making kind of blend using complementary colors. But at this point, I at least wanted to understand what I was doing and at what point the light started coming in and what was reflecting. Some white, dry brush, some fog. So I want it to look slightly foggy. It's at this point that the depth actually started to show. The fog was helping to figure out what was in the forefront and what was in the background. But for some reason, I still wasn't happy with it. Let's see. What else could be done? Honestly, that was really quick, but I don't know what else to do to it. Up to this point, I still hadn't looked at a reference for color. I had just looked at some basic stuff to base my drawing around. So I went ahead and looked up, and I saw that there was a lot of brown around the base, around the grass. So I decided I'd use some of that, dig some into the bottom. It was all starting to come together, and I felt I could actually mark this as my own. Just because I was starting to get a little proud doesn't mean I was done. I still had to add something to it. It was still missing something. And I noticed that the water had no reflections in it. And that just doesn't seem right. Reflections in water still use the base colors from what it's reflecting, so the trees would still resemble their colors just mixed in with the blue. So I sort of dry brushed a little bit of the original color into there. Finally, it was time to add the finishing touches, like some lily pads, some more scratchy details. I added some finishing highlights on the trees because I felt like it needed a little bit more of a vibrant color, so it was kind of like a lime-ish green. There we go. It's done. The last one took about 3 hours, and this one took about an hour and a half. So, it was a lot quicker. Yeah. I was worried for a while, but a little pond in a forest. This one isn't my usual style of painting. Usually it's got a subject. Backgrounds aren't my strength. I really wasn't sure if this was going to turn out well or not. It was up in the air, but I did eventually get my confidence in the end. Just keep working at it till it's done. That's the key. It's the key to victory. So this one was a lot shorter than the last one. I did try new editing techniques. If you feel like letting me know which one's better. Do you prefer me just doing live commentary or doing it post? That'd be great help. But in all, thank you for watching.